everyone, happy Thursday. It's Liz here from Dyslexia Daily to talk to you about 9 areas of literacy teachers need to focus on when they're teaching. So let's start with number 1. The first thing they need to focus on is phonics. And for those of you who are a little bit unsure of what phonics is the sound symbol code that you need to know to actually decode words in the English language. So there's 26 letters, A to Z or A to Z if you're in the US. Those letters combined make 46 sounds. So sounds like a, I, o, u, those types of sounds. They're the sounds that we utter when we speak English words. But the tricky thing is there are 1,200 or more combinations of those letters that just make 46 sounds. And that's the aspect that makes reading and learning the English language so difficult, and more difficult again is being an accurate speller. About 50% of the adult population struggles with spelling, and that's one of the reasons why. And with marketing and other languages having impacts, there are more words being created all the time. Texting is another one that creates a whole new set of words. So, and ways of spelling them. So phonics is simply the sound symbol code. The thing about phonics that makes it so important and why it's my number 1 is because it is the only logical way that a beginning learner, so a child, can actually get any kind of clear indication about what a word might be when they're attempting to read it. They will use their sound symbol code skills to actually work out what words are. As you get older, there are other ways to learn what words, the way words might be spelt and the way that words could be said when you're trying to read them that come in. But for a young person, a young child or a beginning English reader, they want to see a good phonics education to get us started. Number 2 on my list today is decoding. Teachers need to focus on decoding. Now, decoding is all about reading. When you look at a series of symbols on a page, for example, let's say we're going to look at the word apple. You look at the A, the P, the L, the E, and you look at that series of symbols, but this whole transformation is happening in your head. You're looking at the symbols. You're seeing the A, P, P, L, E. You're actually transforming those symbols into sounds. Then they're being processed in your brain, and then you're adding meaning to them, and then you're saying in your mind or out loud, if you're reading out loud, apple. There are all these processes that have to happen, and that is what we call decoding. Decoding is taking those symbols that have been put together in a code form and decoding them to actually get to the meaning of what those letters together are saying. And in our example, it was apple. That's decoding. Now, the third one on my list today is encoding. So we're doing the opposite now. This time, we're actually writing words. Encoding, E-N coding, is all about writing words. So this is the child's ability to actually look or think of a word. So now we're going to, let's say we're going to think of ambulance. You want to write a story about ambulance. So you know the word ambulance. You've heard people say it before. You've heard it on TV. You've read it, it's been read to you in stories. And you want to write the word ambulance into your story. Now you do the opposite. You're encoding. You're taking the word ambulance and you're breaking it down, and you're actually representing that on your page with your pen or pencil, or even typing if you're a child who prefers to type, and you're encoding that language to actually get to the written form. So you're writing ambulance. It sounds and you start with your A and the M. Ambulance. Hopefully you've seen the word a few times, because that's actually a really tricky word to actually sound out and get to the correct spelling, as many of our English words are. So that's encoding. So teachers, that's another really important skill that you can teach very, very early on. And the best way I always think to teach it is to teach it by demonstrating. So when you're writing, you would actually speak out what you're doing to encode that word onto the page. It gives children an opportunity to understand what they should be doing in their mind. And that is what happens before you just recognize a word, know how it's spelled, and bang, it goes on the page. You don't even have to think about it. A bit like happens when you already can drive a car and you get from point A to point B, you don't know how you got there because you actually already knew. It was a learnt, behavioral memory, and you took the actions to go along with it. Spelling and reading and writing should get to that point as well, where you basically can do it without thinking. But for many children, there is always a thought process attached because it's difficult, and this is where the mental exhaustion comes from, particularly for our children who are struggling. Now, number 4 is reading practice. There always has to be reading practice in the mix when we're teaching literacy. We want that reading practice to be not necessarily unassisted reading practice or unsupported reading practice. There are so many ways to practice reading which is supported, and I know that I've told you this before, and it's something I'm a big endorser of, but song lyrics, particularly songs that children are familiar with, are a great way to practice reading, as are stories that are read over and over again. Plus, you've got shared reading experiences where you read word about, paragraph about, sentence about, page about, remembering that you should always be doing some sort of action for our capital letters. Well, I can't think which way it is on this. I think it's this way. And also commas, also full stops, also question marks. That's my symbol for question marks. And I've got a lovely Denise is online. Hi Denise, and she's asking me a question about doing reading practice, and they do 15 minutes every day. Is that enough? Well, that's your decision, Denise, and it depends on your child and if they love it or not. Even my year 9, year 10, year 11s love it when I read their novels with them. So you can do as much or as little as you like. I guess, of course, the more the better. And song lyrics are something you can do in the car as well. Hi, Tammy. Lovely to see you too. All right, number 5 is reading comprehension. Reading comprehension, there's a lot of emphasis on it. Denise has just said that they've started clapping on the periods, which are our full stops here in Australia, but they're called periods in the US. And that her daughter loves it. They do love it when they get to be all active and have a bit of fun. And they are learning complete sentences before you know it, simply by adding that clap in. Hi Teresa, nice to see you too. So let's go back to reading comprehension. So reading comprehension is important because it's about understanding what you read and adding real meaning to it and actually understanding. Of course, there is simple comprehension, which is like, Bob had a red jumper. He wore it on a cold day. Well, what colour was Bob's jumper? It was red. What kind of day was it? Well, it was a cold day. But then there are other inferences like, well, why would Tom have been wearing a cold jumper? Where might he have lived? What season might it have been? Can you see how now it's inference? We're actually using inference to work out what the setting perhaps was for that story. That's the trickiest part for our learning readers, the inference that they have to actually put context to a piece of reading. So there's levels of comprehension that we need to teach. And I guess when we get started, we need to keep it fairly simple. And you can do that from day 1 when you're teaching reading or doing reading with your child. So while I'm at it, I know Denise is from America, but I would love to know where anybody else is from. So while I'm talking to you on my Facebook Live, please type in where you're from. I love the fact that on Facebook, I can reach all around the world to as many countries as possible. It gets me so excited. So I would love to know where you are sitting today watching me. Which country are you in? Now, fluency is another one. It's number 6 on my list. Hi, Eva Mari. What a beautiful name. Eva Mari says it's great info. And hi, Nishi. I'm glad you like my message. So fluency. Now, fluency is about your ability to read at a rate that is appropriate. Tammy's in Cranbourne in Victoria. How fantastic. Not that far from me, Tammy, which is so good. Teresa's in Campbelltown in New South Wales. That's so great. Another Australian. Hope there's some international people on here today, although I think quite a few of them will be asleep, to be honest. So fluency, Nishi is in New Zealand, cool, is about your ability to read at a rate that's appropriate. So it's about reading at speed with minimal mistakes. So the general rule is that a child should be able to read at a reasonable rate with no more than, say, 5 errors per 20 words to get started. That's okay. So look at fluency. Now, I have a really great exercise for helping children increase their fluency. And I'm just thinking, I'm actually going to tell you about that on another Facebook Live. I call it speed reading training, and all of my kids did it with me, and we saw some amazing gains in processing rates when they did that. Now, number 7 that teachers need to focus on is all about availability of learning support. So this is being able to help the child who they are indicating from day one that they are having difficulty with the literacy and language and learning English and reading and spelling it. We need to be very aware, teachers, from day one, if we've got a child who's struggling, that they will need some extra support. And that can be in numerous forms. It can be in all those areas that I've already talked to you about. Decoding, encoding, phonics. It can be all different things. How do you find out where to start your learning support? The way I do it is I say to children, when you're looking at this page in your reader, tell me what you're doing as you're actually looking at the words on the page. Where are your eyes going? What are you thinking about? Speak out what you're doing, and you can very quickly see where they need the help with from day one. So ask a lot of questions.